Well, Joe, I want to switch topics slightly here because I know something that you're pretty passionate about talking about is like the importance of kind of the side hustle and doing something, doing more than one things. Yeah. Can you kind of tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, okay, so I did a video, everything goes back to my videos. I did a video earlier this year that was talking about, I called it the dark side of the singularity.
Yeah.
And it basically touched on the fact that automation and AI is progressing at a pace that is going to, I think the BBC released a report saying that 30% of jobs are going to go away in the next 10 years or something like that due to automation. We're already starting to see the effects of that in our economy. And not to get political about it, I don't think it's really political in nature, but you know, we as human beings do not always respond the way we should to things, like rationally. We respond emotionally, we get tribal about it. We point our fingers at other people as the problem instead of looking at the system and what's going on. So, you know, we're already starting to see some of that. And the point of the video was like, look, I think eventually we're going to get to an amazing place with all this, but it's going to be a rough transition. And it resonated with a lot of people, and it still gets a lot of comments. And I think after making that video, it really not changed my focus, but it definitely made me more hyper aware of the importance of having your own thing.
Yeah.
You know, and not being, not having all your eggs in one basket when it comes to having an income. That was why I started Cankerboy in the first place. Yeah. Was to have something, something outside of my job that, you know, when I did get to a point where the YouTube and the Cankerboy were providing at least a cushion, it's just amazing the leverage you have. Yeah. And you know, it's so much better to go into a job interview when you already have a job, or when you already have some kind of income. And not to mention the fact that there's a real value there to an employer if you've already done something, you know. You know, a nice resume and saying you worked at all these different places, obviously that matters, but also to be able to say you created something from scratch and it was moderately successful. Yeah. You know, there's something about that initiative that's really appealing to people. But from a standpoint of, for someday your job might go away and it will not be your fault at all. But you could have some kind of cushion there, or you have something that you can land on. To me, that's become one of the most important things right now, and I think it's going to become more important as the years go on. Yeah. So, I think I can validate from a few different perspectives what you're saying, because you know I'm a professional recruiter. I hire people all day long, right? So when I look for candidates, I do always think it's really interesting to see what their entrepreneurial interests are and what results they have created. Because although if they don't want to go full-time in the business, I know they have that kind of intrapreneurial mindset, and I know they can hustle, they can run on kind of like lean resources and create something, you know what I mean? So that's one thing. And also from a hiring perspective also, I've seen layoffs. I've seen skill sets become completely obsolete, especially in technology. You know what I mean? It is important to kind of do those things. So I absolutely 100% agree. So you have a much better position to speak about this than I do. You're like, yeah, of course.
Yeah, no, I mean,
no, I mean, so as somebody in your, I'm asking you questions then.
Sure,
as somebody who's in your position, I mean, you just said that that's something that's really important to you. How do you translate that to a company? If you're hiring for a company and you say, look, this guy went out and created a small business, do they respond the same way you do with that same level of enthusiasm and interest?
Some people see it and some people don't, right? Yeah. Because I'm the person always in between someone who, the person that hires and also the candidate, I'm able to sort of speak that language on their behalf and translate it, because some people see it and some people don't. But the key, if you're a job seeker, is to make it easy for them to see. Right? Yeah. So I started a business. This is what I did that I had to start a business. And translating your functional experience to the needs of that business. Right? Yeah. And to offer them kind of a different perspective. That's the key.
Do they see it as sort of a go-getter mentality or you know, not just a team player, but somebody that can be take their own initiative kind of thing?
The right ones will see it that way. Yeah.
Well, and also I imagine when you're angling for a raise, you know, further on down the line, to be able to say, you know, I'm doing this thing outside of here. I don't need your money, but you better pay me to stay here. No, I was making the point to somebody, and you tell me if I'm totally off the mark here, but like okay, so I grew up not really in a wealthy household. My parents were teachers, so we got by, not much more than that. Everybody knows teachers get so much money. But I guess I grew up with a little bit of a chip on my shoulder about how I would notice people who maybe came from money or didn't need money seemed to kind of get things easier. Like let's just say, I'm theoretical, hypothetical,
sure,
other thetical thing. Like you got a single mom, Debbie, and then you have like trust fund Johnny, and both of them work the same job, and one of them can get a raise. It seems like it's usually trust fund Johnny. In my experience, and maybe again, chip on my shoulder or something, but it seems like that's the guy that tends to get it. And I always would wonder, it's like, does he just have an extra layer of confidence that comes with his upbringing or something? Or, what is it? And the more I started thinking about it, I started thinking, well, he didn't have to work there. Yeah. So if he doesn't get the raise, he could go somewhere else and they could lose him. Whereas this other person has to have this job. She's not going anywhere. If she doesn't get the raise, she'll just keep doing what she's doing. And so they would give it to am I overthinking it?
I think it's multidimensional. I think I've seen of what you were talking about before and also have kind of experienced it myself. I can tell you from a hiring perspective, this is not biblical necessarily, but I got it from the Bible, right? But have you heard, to he who has, more will be given. To he who has not, even that what he has will be taken away. If you have company A and company B, right? You look at their financial statement. Company A is making money. Company B is losing money. Who will you invest into? I want a return, it'll be company A, right? So to me, that shows me the way that they're kind of conducting their affairs. Like, who am I going to give a promotion? Someone who's never been tested in battle before, or my general on the front end? So it's less about like what their money is, but more about who they are as an individual, what they bring to the table, and the results that they could create for me is who I would hire and who I wouldn't. Yeah. Does that make sense?
So that speaks to me almost like the whole free market thing. Like, it'd be nice if we lived in a world where there was charity and people gave to the person that needed it the most, but that's not how the world works.
It's well, I mean, I meet a lot of really charitable people through the things that I do, like genuinely honest, wealthy people who give quite a bit, and I meet them both. I mean, I've met good wealthy people, and I met some wealthy people who are not good people. You know what I mean?
Well, I guess the point that I was originally trying to make, and again, I may be way off the mark here. It's just an idea that I have. But again, just going back to having your own thing. Is if you can walk away because you've got your own thing, I feel like they'll be more apt to say, like, all right, fine, we'll give you the raise because we don't want to lose you and have to hire somebody else and train them and all that kind of stuff. It kind of gives you just some leverage.
I think it might give you a certain level of confidence, and like you will conduct yourself differently in an interview because you have that. I think also on a negative way, it might come off as kind of cocky or arrogant. So it might be interesting to kind of to check that, because as an employer, I'm also looking for someone who I can hire for stability, for someone who doesn't have a foot out the door. So it's okay to have these things on the side for your own benefit, but I wouldn't flaunt it necessarily in the face of an employer.
Yeah, okay. Well, I didn't mean it like that.
Yeah. No, right. And I'm not saying that you were, but
but you're saying it's more of like an internal something you're putting out confidence-wise, and
I think it changes you, man. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's another reason.
Yeah, and also like, especially if I know that I've worked hard to create a particular result, right? It's like I'm confident in the skills that I bring to the table because I've really done it. I know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. I mean, what it just comes down to is if you have something on the side, the anxiety level goes way down. Yeah. I mean, again, I worked at the Dallas Morning News, and I mean, there were, it stabilized, well, I shouldn't say it stabilized. They laid off my entire department. Yeah. After I left. So if I hadn't gotten another thing, I would not have a job right now. Yeah. But there was a period there where, I mean, every 6 months there was a layoff. Like just slashing. Yeah. And after a while, once I started having again that cushion, I was kind of zen about it. It was like, well, I guess if I'm gone, then I'll do this other thing that I like doing better anyway.
And I think that's key also, right? So I come at it a perspective of like, all I've done is hire people into jobs, and you have no idea how many people I know, Joe, that live lives of quiet desperation, that have to have a job out of necessity and not for joy,
Yeah.
right? And I think it's important to have kind of a side hustle, even if it doesn't necessarily make money, to feed your soul. That is why I started the podcast, right? I love my recruiting career. I find a tremendous amount of meaning into it, and I've developed a lot of skills because of it, if anything, that are translating into my entrepreneurial career. But through the podcast is a labor of love. You know, I got sponsored, I have a listening audience from 23 countries, I meet amazing people like you, it's turning into a training development company, but out of doing something that I love. And to me, that's really important. Something, when you go to school and you enter the workforce, somewhere down the line, your dreams are kind of beaten out of you sometimes to fit a certain mold, right? But I think it's important to feed whatever that is, because you have no idea what that can turn into.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't make money, it feeds your soul.
Yeah. I mean,
have a hobby, you know what I mean?
I'm not even sure I belong on this podcast because it's called Pathways to Success.
You have created a result. You're very successful,
I've done okay, but I'm not wealthy. My car has one headlight out. You know, I mean, I'm not like some Tony Robbins guru, really smart business guy or anything. I've been able to create something on the side that has finally, after 3 years, gotten to the place where it can sustain some kind of lifestyle and pay my bills and stuff. And that alone, as far as I'm concerned.
You know how many corporate people, I can tell you, in the hundreds, if not thousands, would kill for something like that?
Well, absolutely. No, me 2 years ago would have killed for to be where I am right now. And so, I mean, I'm very grateful for things the way they are right now. And there's an aspect of luck to that too. It's not all just because I'm awesome, but
No, dude, but there was like the consistency piece. You can't fake that.
No. Yeah. I'm just being humble.
Yeah.
Because that's me too. But
sure, yeah.
But I guess where I was going with that was like just the small amount of success that I have been able to put together over this time has it's completely changed my life.
Yeah.
And so I advocate it to the top of my lungs. If you can find something that you love and that you can get a charge out of and make some kind of income, it doesn't have to be Bugatti money. You know, it will change your life in ways that you can't even measure.
So let me ask you this though. The consistency that you had, right? Did it feel like a chore, or did you enjoy the process?
Oh no, sometimes it's a chore.
Sometimes it was a chore?
Oh yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the video I'm working on right now for Monday, sometimes they write themselves.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just so easy and smooth, and it's just a joy from start to finish. And then sometimes it is just pulling out toenails with pliers. It's just so hard. Sometimes the very last thing in the world I want to do is sit down and turn on that camera.
Really?
You know? Yeah. I mean, it's anything.
What do you love about it though? Because I think honestly, it's like, for me, like when people look at the podcast and they're like, Julian, you're so disciplined. You produced a new podcast. Now I'm talking about myself, right? What the hell? No, but I mean, I appreciate it, right? Because I have experienced on some level what you have. And they say, you're so disciplined. You produce a new episode every Monday, right? And I'm like, I guess that's what it looks like to other people who are not in my shoes, but I enjoy the process. I deeply enjoy conversation. And I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be able to have this kind of discipline if I didn't understand the value of what I was creating or enjoyed the process. Yeah. So there must be an element of this that you do love, right?
Totally.
Yeah,
no, I mean, I'm just saying sometimes, it is a chore.
It is my favorite thing, I don't like editing video. I don't like having to do all the setup and everything. I would just wish I could be the talent and do this.
There's I don't know if it's a cartoon or what. It's an old trope. It's not some new thing. But like the whole creative process is always like, can I curse?
Sure. I'll bleep it out. It'll be funny.
You bleep it out. You want? Yeah, no. But it's like you start off and it's like, this is gonna be the greatest thing of all time.
Yeah.
And then as you get into it, it's like, oh, this is shit.
Yeah.
And then, oh God, I'm shit. I'll never and it just gets worse and worse. And then somehow it kind of comes back out. You know? I go through that every single video.
Interesting.
Every single video. Sometimes when I'm writing it, it's like, oh man, like I'll find some little nugget of information. I'll walk my dog and I'll make some connections. Like, oh, this is gonna be great. And I sit down and then I record it. And then as I'm editing it, it's like, oh, this didn't work the way I wanted. And it's just frustration and pulling hair. But then by the time it's the end, it's like, okay, yeah. That's pretty close to what I wanted. It does that every single time. But the one I'm working on right now, Sometimes there's not a lot of information to go on, and then sometimes there's a fire hose of information. And it's really about structuring it and finding what I can bring to the table on it, what's my unique perspective, or how can I make this interesting? It's not always easy. And when there's a whole bunch of information to go through, it's like, I don't even know where to start with this. And that's the one I'm working on right now. And so sometimes it is a massive chore, and sometimes I edit, or I shoot it, and I sit down and I start editing it, and I look at it and I'm just like, oh my God, this is awful. Who would want to sit through this? But you work on it and you work on it, and then another idea comes up, and then another one. Ooh, I can cut that, and this will connect, and then next thing you know, it's something interesting.
And then when you do create something that you are proud of, how do you feel?
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's so interesting what you said. Have you read the book War of Art or Show Your Work?
War of Art, yeah.
Okay, so the War of Art and also Show Your Work, and they're both books about creativity. And the idea that I get from both of them is that great work, it never sort of appears like in a flash of lightning that people sort of romanticize. It comes through brute force effort and consistency, right? It is through the process of creation and the connecting of other ideas that will create great art. And that's what you just described to me very eloquently, I think.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
No, walking my dogs helps a lot.
This incubation process also, like going away from the work and then being able to see things through metaphor and different perspectives, I think helps create good things too.
I was saying to somebody the other day that like I'm big on podcasts, obviously, and I haven't been listening to them as much as I used to, though.
Yeah.
Not because I've grown tired of them or anything, but it's just because the sausage factory is always turning.
Yeah.
Like I used to put on my headphones and listen to a podcast while I walk my dogs or something like that. But now it's like, no, I need that space. I need to be able to just let my brain do its thing.
Yeah.
And usually by the time I get back from walking my dogs, I'm like running to the computer and writing down all the ideas that I've had. But it is just about, like, there's a lot of people that ask me to do certain videos on certain topics, and I don't want to do them because somebody else did a really good job of covering it, and I just don't know what I would bring to the table that they didn't. And maybe there is something, but until I figure out what that is, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
So that's, I don't know what that speaks to necessarily, other than just I want to make sure that if I'm going to take the time to do something, that it's got something that you're not going to find somewhere else.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So.
Cankerboy, one of your other side hustles. Let's talk about that, man.
That's a good segue.
Yeah.
Speaking of pain.
So we were talking on the topic of side hustle and just creation, all that kind of stuff. So like even as an entrepreneur, you also have diversified kind of your things.
Yeah.
It seems unrelated to the YouTube stuff.
They came from two different things, and I promote it on the YouTube channel, so there's a little crossover. Now that the YouTube channel has kind of taken off, I can use it as a platform to promote it a little bit.
So what is it?
Yeah, so Cankerboy, all right, let me back up. Canker sores. It's not herpes.
Isn't it a form of herpes?
No.
You're the science guy, so I'll take your lead here.
I always have to explain. This is like 90% of my job with Cankerboy is explaining what it is and what it's not. Because growing up, I was always told it was herpes. Doctors would tell me that. Dentists would tell me that. And I'm sitting there like, I'm 7 years old. Where did I get herpes from?
Where did I get herpes from?
But thanks, Mom. But wow, that could be read in so many terrible ways. Anyway, so I had them my whole life. Anyway, canker sores, if you don't have them, congratulations, you're lucky. But they're these little sores, well, not always little, but they're sores, these open sores that appear in your mouth that are extremely painful. It's like an open nerve, basically. And there's 3 different types of people that get them. They've been classified this way anyway. The type 1 people get them maybe once or twice a year. They're very environmental. Some people get them with stress. Some people get them with certain foods. They have reactions and allergies and that kind of thing. Some people get them when they get sick. And then there's the type 2 people who get them more than once a month. It's just like this regular thing. That would be me. And the type 3 people have them literally all the time, just all the time. And so I'd had them my whole life. Doctor never had an answer. Dentist never had an answer. Shrug of the shoulder, and well, some people just get them. That's what I got told over and over again. And in my, I don't know, mid-30s or so, maybe early 30s, I'd had enough. I was like, I was done. 30 years of this was enough. And so I started just getting really anal about it. And I literally kept a spreadsheet where I documented every single one that I got. I kept track of what I ate. I kept track of my stress level. I kept track of where they were in my mouth, the inflammation level, how painful they were. I mean, like I said, this whole spreadsheet.
Wow.
Yeah, nerd. And the reason why that's worth mentioning that I did that was that it pointed out some patterns that I'd never really noticed before, which was I went through cycles, and I called them the on cycle and the off cycle. So for like 7 to 10 days, if one popped up, another one might pop up, and then another one. I might get 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever, but then they would all go away at the same time, and then I would have 7 to 10 days where I wouldn't get one. And then they would spring back up again. So it was this weird cyclical thing. And I remember I would even, this is science for you. When I was in an off cycle, I remember actually one time taking pins and like poking my mouth, just trying to make them happen.
Wow.
Just to see, I mean,
yeah,
because they weren't coming up during those times. What that said to me was that it wasn't an environmental factor for me. It wasn't something I was eating, because I was eating the same thing. It wasn't my stress level. Sometimes my most stressed out times, I wasn't getting them. I mean, like I thought I would be, and then I wouldn't. What it told me was it was something systemic. It was something going on inside of me. And that just kind of changed my perspective on it. Every product out there for canker sores is something topical, a gel or a paste that you can put on there. They have these things called melts that are just like these little caps that you put on it. It's all just to manage the pain.
It just dulls it for a finite time, yeah.
Right, yeah. And they help, but it's treating the symptom and not the cause.
Not the cause, right.
So I started at one point, like that was actually the whole keeping a spreadsheet thing was a while back, and a few years passed, and I got more interested in it again. Like I need to look back into this. So I basically just started a blog, and I called it Cankerboy.com. And that's how it got started, was just a blog. And I did research, and I looked up treatments, and especially supplements. I became interested in supplements when I realized that it was something going on inside of me. And I posted the results on the blog. And I kept that up for a while. And I wound up finding a couple of different supplements that actually did make a difference. Again, keeping this spreadsheet and everything. And I kind of sat on that idea for a while, and I had this combination of pills that I was taking. I took the 2 that worked the best and took them at the same time, and they just completely went away.
Wow.
And literally for the first time in my entire life, I didn't have any. For like a year. And the irony is, or the joke, whatever you want to call it, I had to stop taking it because I was keeping a blog about canker sores, and I wasn't getting canker sores anymore. So I was like doing reviews of all these products and stuff.
Yeah.
And part of it was there wasn't much of a business model there, but it was like I had an Amazon affiliates thing, so I would do a review and then link off to where somebody could buy this product, whatever it might be. 90% of them didn't work though, so it's like didn't work for me, but if you want to buy it. But anyway, so I looked around and I realized there wasn't anything out there that had this formula. There were a couple of supplements, but they didn't have anything close to what I was taking. And so I sat on it for a while. I should have done it way sooner, but there was a money aspect. I had to buy the product and had a minimum order I had to purchase. And anyway, I eventually finally got around, and I created this product called Cankerboy. Hey, I brought one with me.
Let's take a look at it. And you created, and you have any history of creating a product?
Sit it right there on the table.
There we go.
It's kind of blown out. But,
yeah.
No, I'd never created a product before.
Wow.
No. But I just, I looked around and I found some labs, and I got the best price that I could. And
is it working for other people?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. That has been the surprise of the whole thing. Not that it's working for other people, but I'll be honest with you, I wasn't trying to change people's lives or anything. You know, I wasn't like, this is going to help people out.
Scratching your own itch, man, right?
It was, I wanted to make money.
Yeah, okay.
No, I'm going to be completely honest.
Yeah,
sure. It was all about making money for me at first.
Yeah.
Like, again, filmmaker and working at a desk job in a cubicle somewhere. I wanted out of that. And I wanted some kind of freedom so that I can make my movies. Best case scenario, something that could fund some movies, you know? So this was my way out. So it was all, I'm just being honest, it was all about making money in the beginning. But then I started getting emails from people. And there was a dude from Australia that said he always had 10 to 12 of them at a time. And after taking this, they went away for the first time in his life.
Wow.
The ones that get me the most, I've gotten several of these now, is, you know, people are more likely to do things for their kids than they are for themselves.
Sure, yeah.
But I get emails from people who bought it for their kids because they started getting them in their teenage years. Teenagers get them pretty regularly, hormones and whatnot. But there was a mom who, this one almost brought me to tears. I'm a softie, but she said that she had him her whole life and she hated him, obviously. But she said the worst day of her life was when she realized that her son was getting them. That she had passed this on to her son.
Oh, wow.
And the word curse you hear quite a bit from people who get this.
Okay.
Because it's just this thing that keeps coming back and nothing works, and it's just, people just kind of accept it as their lot in life. I guess I'll just always be in pain, you know? And at their very worst, it's not just a painful mouth thing. I mean, you get flu-like symptoms. You can get a fever. It's inflammation is what it is. And we can talk about that in a second if you want, the science behind it. But anyway, she got this for her son, and it helped out her son, and she sent me this email just thanking me so much because she tried everything in the world and nothing had worked, and this finally worked. And like I said, I didn't start out for that. I wanted to make some money, and here I am, like, getting emails like this. Is like, wow, this is bigger than I thought it was. This is more important than I thought it was.
Yeah.
And it's still something that moves me quite a bit.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Cool. So what are you trying to do with this? Is that an active, like, where does that fall in kind of like the big kind of empire that it is that you're creating, I guess?
Empire.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is I've been really bad about marketing it. I did a video on my YouTube channel way before. I mean, I think I have 500 subscribers at the time. And that's just how many I had when I launched this. So I did a video.
So this product's been around a while then?
A couple years.
Yeah, okay.
But anyway, that video right now, I think it slipped to number 2, but it had been number 1 in YouTube. If you search for Canker sores, it's the first one that comes up. One of the first ones that comes up now. And just from that is where I've gotten the majority of my sales.
Wow.
And I should say it's a subscription product. So because it's a daily pill, you take it every day. Eventually you're going to run out. For simplicity's sake, you do a subscription. It just automatically comes in the mail. But it's a recurring payment. And anyway, so I did a video that launched it. It has gotten many hundreds of thousands of views at this point, and, well, I'd say many hundreds, but some. And that's what all my marketing has been. There's actually a marketing campaign that I'm launching on Facebook, because now, I'm going around in circles, I apologize, but this was supposed to fund everything else.
Yeah.
But right now my YouTube channel is funding this.
Yeah.
So I'm taking the extra revenue that I'm making from YouTube, and I'm putting it into finally a legit marketing campaign for this. Yeah. And I've got a commercial that I shot way back when that's going to start going live hopefully in the next week. So good timing.
Sweet, man.
Yeah. But the plan for this is my ultimate goal is to get 1% of the market, and it's not a small number.
Yeah.
I don't know if you do this, but like you inspire yourself by like looking at the numbers and seeing what this could be.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I did with this. So the numbers are 20% of people get them on a regular basis, and 65% of them get them more than once a month. That's my market. So it comes out to about 11 to 12% of the population as a whole. So when you look at the population of the United States, that comes out to 30 to 40 million people. I just want to get 1% of that market. That's my goal, is just to get 1% of people as subscribers on this.
Yeah.
And that's That's a good business right there.
Well, I think for me, it's like I've experienced them before, and when I have them, it's, yes, I hate it, right? But like my kids have them chronically.
Oh, really?
And also the people that do have them, it really is like a curse. It's like an ailment, you know, and it's like they do anything to get rid of it. Like I told you, MJ DeMarco, he wrote about it in his book.
I reached out to him.
The Millionaire
Did I tell you
Fastlane.
that?
Did he respond back?
Yeah, he did. I sent
Did
him a
he
bottle.
really?
Yeah, I sent him a bottle.
Awesome.
I haven't heard back since then.
Did he tell you, I mean, did you, but you saw where it was so painful to him, right? Like, I mean, like, I don't know if it was in a YouTube book or a YouTube video or in a book that I read that, but he has it, but he hates it. Yeah. It was in his book? Yeah. Okay. But yeah, no.
Yeah. No,
crazy, man.
after you told me that, I reached out to him and I was like, hey, I just want to let you know I have this. I'd be glad to send you a bottle. And he was like, yeah, please. And
I mean, absolutely.
I need to follow up with him, actually. It's been a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's, I had one when I was in high school. I think it's a hormonal thing. Teenagers do get them really bad.
Yeah.
But I was at a tennis camp, and I had one on the side of my tongue the size of a nickel.
Wow.
And I couldn't talk. That made me a real popular guy at tennis camp. I walk around talking like this everywhere. You know, oh, it's just an open sore in my mouth.
Yeah.
And I think somebody called me Cankerboy there, and that's where I got the name from. Yeah.
Joe, we covered a lot of ground, man. I really have learned so much from you, and this has been a great experience. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, totally. I'm glad you had me.
How do people connect with you, get on the channel, learn more about Cankerboy? Tell us all that.
Well, there's Cankerboy.com if you want to know more about that. I encourage you to check that out and keep an eye out. Hopefully, you'll see my funny video. I'll explain the video. Actually, I'm really happy with it. It's gonna be really funny. So I used to work. I did improv at Dallas Comedy House for a very short amount of time. But a good buddy of mine named Terry, I got him to be in this commercial as like a human embodiment of a canker sore. So it's me trying to give a presentation while a guy's punching me over and over again, wearing a shirt that says Canker on it. And so it's a funny commercial, so keep your eye out for that. I can show you when we're done with this. But anyway, so Cankerboy.com if you want to learn more about that. If you just search canker sores on YouTube, it should be one of the top ones that come up, where I explain how the whole thing works. And I do get into the science of it there. It's an inflammatory condition from your body overproducing a certain type of inflammatory protein that this helps regulate. That's the best way of putting it. So that's Cankerboy. AnswersWithJoe.com is my home base for everything there. You can find my videos posted. There's all kinds of stuff. Obviously, you can go to YouTube and search Answers with Joe. I don't have a unique URL. It's not like youtube.com/AnswersWithJoe, but if you search it, it comes up.
Cool. And we'll make sure to have everything plugged into the show notes. You can connect with him. So thank you all for tuning in to another episode of the Pathways to Success podcast. As always, make sure to subscribe, comment, and share. Connect with Joe. And we'll see you next week on the next episode of the Pathways to Success.
Good close.